Do you have suggestions for good webcam for Twitch? I might be looking. Get better lighting first is my first recommendation. It's my first suggestion, if you are looking at streaming with a face camera, is to look at your lighting first. In my old setup, before I moved back out here to Chicago, my old setup, I had lighting setup that was LifeX light bulbs. So I had granular control of the color temperature. I had granular control of the brightness of the lights, the luminosity of the lights themselves. They were simple bulbs, just hung up at different 2-point lighting positions in my room to give me a good face light and a good fill light. And the lighting is going to be much more important for how your camera image looks than your camera itself. The bar for decent video is so low at this point, because like the camera that you have in your pocket is likely to be much better than the cheap webcams that you can buy. Once you get up to a decent camera that's reasonable and a reasonable price, it's going to be very similar until you again like jump to a DSLR. When I first started, I actually have it right here on my desk. I used this Galaxy Edge 7 as my main face cam for the first 8 months of streaming, I think. Very long time. I used this camera as my main face cam. It worked perfectly well. I used the application Droid Cam, which is free, gives you a nice clean output, but you're able to use your phone and connect it to your computer. The reason it can look good or it can look bad is if you don't use the correct lighting. So reassess your lighting situation before buying a new camera. I saw such a vast improvement in the way my camera looked just by changing out the way my lighting was set up. In my old room, I was set up in basically a black box. I had my window had a double curtain on it, so the light that came in from the window was very easy to control, and you can start out with a whole lot more for free before investing in other stuff if you pay attention to the way the light is in your room and then start looking at upgrading your equipment. But look at your lighting first, because I bet you can do stuff with stuff you already have that you haven't even thought about yet before you go looking for expensive lights and stuff. I do have a ring light that I use for cosplay, even though I haven't made vids in months. So ring lights are nice for a lot of things, but I feel like ring lights are kind of overhyped still. I do have a surprisingly large number of ring lights now that I think about it. I have a ring light currently mounted to my face cam here. I have a second ring light that's mounted up here, which I am pointing to, that I feel like you can't even see where I am pointing to. Let me see if I can. So I have one up here. It's actually standing on my PC tower, but it gives me fill light. So this is your key light. A key light, in terms of filming and stage experience, the key light is the one that lights the most of your subject. In this case, me. So my face, the front light is from the key light. And so the key light usually is going to be closest to your camera. When I was in the old space, my camera was off a little bit more to my right. So it was off this direction a little bit further. And then my key light was a little bit further off in that angle. So it still gave me more of a shadowed, a little bit of like a Rembrandt shadow, which made then my fill light more important, because I had so much more light coming from a more oblique angle that I needed that fill light to make sure that there was enough light on my face. 2-point lighting is a huge thing to have. Trying to do 2-point lighting with streaming, I find to be easier than trying to do single-point lighting. I feel like single-point lighting ends up with a whole bunch of very dramatic shadows that if you are just trying to be a human on the internet and you are not trying to go for a particular style that demands those kinds of very stylistic shadows and lighting designs, 2-point lighting is going to make that so much easier. However, As someone who has spent 20 plus years in stage and entertainment, you don't need fancy lights to accomplish nice looking lighting. You can make it look as good as possible as long as your environment adds to that. Here's your crash course on lighting when it comes to both stage and film. There's 3 primary lights that you need to know about. One of them is your key light, which we already talked about. One of them is your fill light, which we already talked about. And then the last one is either called a hair light or a kicker. And that is the light that really cuts you away from the backdrop, right? So that is the light that separates your body, the subject of the camera, from the background. In order to get that impact, I have 2 lights set up, and they are a pair of lights that I can get at Harbor Freight for $8 that have very cheap LED remote control lamps in them that I could put into any home fixture, and I make them blue. And that's my background. I have one pet peeve. Stop using your ceiling light. Sometimes that's the only light that you have in the room that you're streaming from. You will get so much better results if you turn the ceiling light off and use like a desk lamp or a bedside table lamp that is at eye level, slightly off at an angle from your camera, somewhere between 30 and 45 degrees. If you are the center of the circle and your camera is directly in front of you, if your light is off by 30 to 45 degrees from your camera and it's at eye level with you, it's gonna look fabulous. You're gonna look so much better than if you're in a fully lit room from a ceiling light, because you don't have that harsh light that's coming down and giving you all of these long shadows across your face. Especially because in many cases, that light is behind the person who is in that room. So then you've got shadows being cast by your head across your face. Ceiling light as a backlight is okay. Like, for me, I would want to correct a little bit more. So you want to make sure that your key light and possibly your fill light are brighter than the ceiling. If you can change your lighting up, it will change so much if you stop using your ceiling light. But if that's where you're starting, that's where you're starting. Still start. Still do the thing. But as soon as you can move beyond that, you'll see massive improvement in the way you look on stream, which ultimately, when you're using a camera, that's one of the considerations, right? How you look on stream comes out of how your camera looks, right? I remember what my camera used to look like. It was crappy. Things have improved. There's old footage from when I had first started streaming. It does not look as nice and crispy as it does now. I stole a random $5 ring light from Dad, and it did help a lot, even if it was a pain in the eyes. Yes, that's the other thing. That's the other thing too. Like, when I was working in stage, you could always pick out the brand new actors, because they'd get under the stage lights for the first time and they'd be like, you better get used to that light being in your eyes. It's not going away. If the light is not in your eyes, you are not in the right place. But if you are, if the host is the sole subject of a video, then I don't need to see your whole room behind you. For my opinion, for my aesthetic, I have too much light in this room right now. But I haven't been able to hang up my second set of curtains to control the light better. When the light looks great to me for my design is when this room is much darker and you can see more of the blue behind me. I also stand out better from the background when it's darker in my room. I am well lit, and then my background is less bright. You can mess with unusual arrangements of your materials, but also utilize things that are beneficial to you too. So if you've got that natural source of light, use that as your primary light and put your camera in front of it so that when you look at your camera, you're capturing that light on your face. Well, that turned into way more of a lecture than I was ready for. I hope it was useful. I hope you guys enjoyed some of that information and some of my insanity around lighting and my thoughts on cameras and everything. See, now I'm sitting here and all I want to do is like hang up these curtains that I haven't been able to get to before. I just want to hang up the curtains now. I have learned things. They found me. I've said too much. I've said too much. I've shared too many secrets. They've come to get me.